254. Imagine.
Welcome back and many thanks for staying with us. So I just take you now to Ram to carry on with that discussion.
Thank you very much, Doreen. This is Entrepreneurship Tuesday, Business Tuesday on the news. Use the hashtag news as you start your SMS to 22162. We shall have your comments being read after the end of the bulletin. Today we are talking about cooperatives, how young people in Kenya, youth in Kenya, can ensure that they have a lasting employment, that they have sought out on themselves instead of seeking for jobs. Because did you know that 73 million people globally are actually registered as unemployed, which means that there are many more people who have not registered for employment, yet they lack such a thing. In studio with me is Dorcas Matthew, who is a global speaker, and Timothy Gashusha, who is the Youth Entrepreneurs Africa co-founder. Welcome to the discussion.
Thank you.
I would like us to start, first of all, with generally. We have cooperatives, businesses here that are being founded, and most people that have founded these things are in the farming industry. And we would like to ask, first of all, if I would start with you, Timothy, when we talk about cooperatives, how can youths ensure that the cooperative businesses that they venture to are successful, and do these cooperatives actually lead to success in the first place?
Well, thank you very much for that particular question, because traditionally we have known cooperatives, apart from just the last few years, cooperatives from back in the 1960s, 1970s have been primarily focused around agriculture, agribusiness ventures. But now we have a new form of cooperatives that are now venturing into housing, real estate. I think cooperatives can be a very good model for transitioning young people to success, particularly because young people are diverse. We are the majority of our country. And in our country, for example, we have the cooperatives is actually one of the biggest sectors in our economy. We have savings of about 400 billion within cooperatives, and they hold an asset base of about 300 billion, bigger than many of the banks that we have in our country. So it tells you that cooperatives, if harnessed within the potential of young people, cooperatives models can be a solution to bring young people together, to spur their businesses, to spur entrepreneurship. Because the savings culture is what can be able to now be an alternate to whether receiving government money through Youth Enterprise Fund. How about we tap into cooperatives, because we know banks are quite heavy on their interest rates, and in as much as the president lowered the interest rate cap, I saw just recently that by September we'll have the interest rate back to about 20%. But SACCOs or cooperatives are providing interest rates at a much lower fee. So these are opportunities to create successful enterprises within young people.
Wonderful, wonderful. Dorcas, can young people succeed with cooperative businesses? Because he has mentioned something here about the government chipping in, the government giving in opportunities. Do you think such things can reduce the rate of unemployment, especially in our country today?
Wow, thank you so much, Ram.
Yes, thank you.
I believe that we usually say that don't wait until you get a bigger opportunity for you to do great thing. I believe as youths, start with small potential that you have, other than waiting for the government to come. You're in minute ground, you are a small person in the world. So the moment government is coming to seek you, get to know that it has served a lot of people. And for the youths to succeed, they have to start with what they have. They start as a group. We have merry-go-round investment groups. They can start small, and with that, they grow. So don't wait until you have a big opportunity for you to do great things. Start from the opportunity you have today.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
But now we are talking about starting from somewhere.
Yes.
Now that is a problem, because most youths are unemployed because of lack of finances. According to research, lack of funds is one of the reasons why we have a high rate of unemployment. So how do we go through to start a cooperative yet you lack money? You've talked about savings.
Yes. I think first we have to look at it from a different perspective.
Yes.
By first inculcating a culture of savings within our country from an early age. So I'm looking at it from a model of even having school cooperatives. You know, how about we introduce cooperative models within high schools so that we can be able to start having the cooperative model culture nurtured from a tender age. Because, for example, if, say, there's any occurrence of someone falling sick within a class, there's usually one way or another that people contribute, you know. But how can we now start looking at contributing money that we contribute usually for healthcare? How can we contribute that money to channel it towards, you know, bettering ourselves, investing in ourselves, investing in starting businesses? And because, yes, young people have a challenge of finance, but there's some little money, and that is why models of cooperatives are successful, because they encourage the little money that is available. That 100 shillings, that 10 shillings, you know, you put it together within a pool of funds, then as young people you can be able to decide that with this money we can start XYZ business, we can venture into buying home ownership slowly, because every young person at the end of the day wants to have you know, a good home. So cooperatives are able to pull young people together to invest in things that they by themselves individually cannot be able to invest in.
Well, and if we talk about cooperatives in terms of now, one of the disadvantages that we will realize is, since cooperatives involve many people, it involves one person and another, and they have to agree. Before they do something, there must be consultations. Does this also have a limitation towards the growth of somebody's financial standing? Tell me.
Yes. At some point,
Uh-huh.
yes.
Yes.
Because it is when working with a business, or maybe working as a corporate, or maybe as a corporate, let's say cooperative, you need to consult. So at some point, these making decisions, or maybe including many people in your decision making, delays. And remember, in cooperative or in anything to do with business, we have some decisions which need quick action. So sometimes they hinder achievement.
But now when you're talking about profits here, you want something to happen here that will enable you to make profit, yet you still need to consult. Does it mean that someone has to now come out of the cooperative sector, and then in terms of you just leave the group and then you form your own business? What do you do when it happens that you want to make more profits?
All right. When you want to, we usually have limitations because of conflict of interest. Yes, conflict of interest. Remember, you're working as 2 people or 3 people as cooperative. Making decisions you can't do alone. Not unless you have a written document as a team that we entrust this person to be making decisions on our behalf. That will lead to success.
All right.
Yeah.
Timothy, what do you think about that?
I think, first of all, cooperatives can be as minimal as 10 people to a maximum of whatever number there is. And cooperatives are usually guided by bylaws. So by the time you're a member of a cooperative, there are certain bylaws you need to adhere to. I think what can be done is investing more into education and training around leadership of cooperatives, because everything stands and falls around leadership. For example, if you pull in together 100,000 shillings and then, you know, the leadership decides we are going to misappropriate these funds for the members, you see, the members then will not benefit from products of the cooperative or of the circle, because the leadership misappropriated the funds. So I think there needs to be investment around education and training for the leadership, as well as the members, to understand how do you run a cooperative successfully. Because there are cooperatives in our country that have been running for the past 40, 30 years. So how can we enable young people to understand how to run cooperatives from first nurturing leadership into understanding what is this cooperative model of running business and how do you run it sustainably. And secondly, I think many young people are already in some form of chama or SACCO.
And you think that cooperatives can also be some form of chama? Can you tell me that?
Yes, as I said, cooperatives start with as minimal as 10 people to a maximum of whatever number. So by the time you're organized as 10 members, you can be able to start a cooperative. There are just two things that you need to be able to adhere to according to the Cooperative Societies Act. One is you need to have that minimal number of membership of 10. Second, you need to adhere by what we call cooperative principles, which is basically voluntary and open membership, autonomy, democratic processes of deciding this is the way we're going to do things. So I think young people can be able to organize themselves in the small chamas to actually become household names of SACCOs or cooperatives in our country. Yeah.
Maybe as you wind up, because time is not on our side, when someone wants to get into cooperatives, are we supposed to look into interests? For example, in our previous news bulletin for Business Tuesday last week, we talked about Kenya's sector wanting to get into agribusiness. Now, should we have cooperative relating to people's interests, or do we have fertile grounds that people should just go into?
Wow. When one is planning to join a cooperative, I believe you should look at sustainability.
All right.
Or continuity. You might follow interest, and then after a few days, it collapses.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, you join, after money, you lose it.
What do you think in a few minutes?
We're in a country where we have had the daisies of this world swindling citizens of their money. As a young person, you don't want to be a victim of your little money being swindled by a cooperative. So first, I think you need to look at the leadership of the cooperative and not just the interest, because interests are usually between 1 to 1.5% per month. So not just the interest, but look at the leadership of the cooperative and to what extent are they championing members' interest by one, the loan structures, how are the loans staggered? What period of time do you need to be a member of the cooperative to benefit from the cooperative? So looking at those particular factors so that you know which is the cooperative you need to get into in respect to your area of interest. And lastly, it's about what we are calling now an investment co-op, which is, I think, what I should advocate most young people to get into or form themselves into. Coming up with investment cooperatives which do not look at the traditional products of just agribusiness, but we can even look at how do we trade shares using a cooperative.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you. Those are views from two panelists, Dorcas Matthew and Timothy Gashuya. Thank you for coming.
Thank you very much.
It was a very insightful session. Today we were talking about cooperatives in terms of youths in Kenya having time to ensure that they start their cooperative in terms of making sure that you form your own sect, not sect technically, but form your own group of likewise business-minded people, and then you start your own cooperative. Send us a text to 22162. Starting with the word news, it was Business Tuesday. My name is Ram Maguko as I wind up handing over to Doreen.
Well, of course, and I don't think there's anything I can say. The panelists have said it all, and you've just wrapped it up quite well. Well, many thanks for our viewers at home for watching. That's all we had time for tonight on Business Tuesday. My name is Doreen Arange, and good night.